Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well today. My name is Russell, I run the Rusty Bullwhips YouTube channel. It's a pleasure to see you all again. And today we're going to be doing a little bit of an overview video of these. These are all the whips that I currently own in my collection. Over the years, I've had many whips. Many of them have come and gone throughout my collection, and these are the ones that have stayed. I'm very happy to have them all with me, and I'm very happy to show them to you today. So without further ado, this is the Rusty Bullwhips whip collection. So in no particular order, I am going to be going through the whips, and the only sort of order I guess we will be going through is shortest to longest. So let's get right into it. The first whip that you see here is the shortest whip in my collection. This is a 5-foot nylon Snakewhip made by Isaac Eliason of Eliason Whip Company. I've reviewed all the whips on this channel before, so please check out my channel for specific individual reviews. And the Snakewhip is actually really cool because of how compact it is. Isaac calls these scrappy Snakewhips. They are meant to be made very minimalistically, and they're meant to be portable, so you can take these on the go and crack them anywhere you want. And they are made out of paracord scraps because he is a minimal waste paracord whip maker. So if he can salvage any pieces of paracord, he will do that, which is very respectable. This is a very cool color scheme. It is neon blue and neon yellow, and it actually looks a lot lighter off camera, and on camera I know it seems very dark. It's got quite a flowy action. Snakewhips like to crack in specific directions, not changing planes. So example, they like doing flicks and maybe like overhead continuous lines. And this one is very cool. The taper is quite fast for a Snakewhip, and it is a very simplistic design. You have a heel knot, and it tapers all the way down to an English eye fall hitch. And this is one of my old dark green falls, and I gave it a blue popper just to give it some contrast. So it cracks really well. I'm not going to crack it, but it's a great whip for indoors and just something if you want to have a whip to take on the go. This is your go-to whip. So 5-foot scrappy Snakewhip made by Eliason Whip Company. Next up in the collection is the only Stockwhip that I have. This is a pretty cool black nylon Stockwhip. It's got a half-platted handle, and it's actually got 2 different plat counts. I believe the handle itself is a 16 plat, while the keeper and the thong are 12 plats. And we'll start with the handle. This is a very unique whip. I like how it's got wood, and you can see it's very aged. It's old looking, but it's still quite nice. And it gives some nice contrast, and you can see where the rest of the parts of the whip are. And it's got a very boxy heel knot, and it feels good in the hand. And there's a lot of nice sort of chevrons going into these diamond braids, and they are wrapped very well. You cannot see any gaps in the handle. And moving up, we have a nice knot, and the keeper is very movable and quite flexible, which is good for a Stockwhip. Stockwhips are known for these. They are Australian styles, so you can carry them over the crook of your shoulder or your arm while you're on a horse, and you can crack them in a bunch of different directions so they're not stiff and rigid like a bullwhip. And they make for some very cool two-handed whip cracking combos, and I can't do any really cool two-handed whip cracking routines. I'm not very good. I'm very good with one-handed, but anyways, the taper is fast again. It is very thin. It's quite interesting how we stop at this taper twist. It doesn't have a traditional fall hitch. It just goes straight from the braid into this tapered fall, and it gives the whip a lot of aerodynamics as it cuts through the air. It's very lightweight. This one does volleys and arrowheads super well, probably the best out of all the whips I have in my collection. And it's really really cool. I wanted to have some variety in my collection, at least include one Stockwhip, so this was the one. I got this on eBay back in February of 2021 from a seller in Nevada. I don't know his name or if he has the account anymore, but it's a very cool whip for an eBay handmade product. So I'm very impressed. So the 6-foot black nylon eBay Stockwhip. And finally, we get into the Bullwhips. The rest of the whips from here on out will be Bullwhips, so be prepared. We're beginning with this. This is a 6-foot purple economy bullwhip made by Torrance Fisher of Sword Guy Builds. Be prepared to hear that name a lot too. I have a lot of these whips by him. So the economy bullwhips are unique as they are made to be budget-friendly entry-level whips, but also very good whips for anyone who is looking for one and doesn't want to spend a huge amount of money. These are the whips for you. They are made with stacked cores, meaning they have no braided bellies. They have a stacked inner core and one overlay over the finish. And they are very, very cool, and they crack just as well as any other bullwhip would. The color is a nice purple, as I said before. I liked purple. I just wanted to have a contrasting color that kind of stood out amongst all the earth-colored tone whips that I have in my collection. And a fun fact that I mentioned in my review is that purple was my pep rally high school color, class color. So this is a little sentimental to me. Reminds me of high school in a way. And the handle is short. These have short 8-inch handles. They have diamond braids. They're very simplistic. They're meant to say, hey, this is a bullwhip, and this is what a bullwhip looks like. The taper is good. It's very good, and they end with these very interesting fall hitches with these tapered twists and these 2 tassel points. And the falls aren't traditionally looped on. They're sort of this single, like, beaded paracord piece that is tied on differently, which is interesting. And we have a blue nylon popper, which is one of my own. So, another fantastic bullwhip. You will not be disappointed to have one of these. They are quite fast. A 6-footer is a great beginner's length, and you will enjoy learning and doing a lot of cool tricks with economy bullwhips by Sword Guy Builds. Moving on, we have a Western Stage Prop 6-foot nylon bullwhip. These are also in the budget economy range. They are about $90 to $100. They are quite good. They are sturdy. They are another example of a bullwhip. You can take one look at this and say, hey, yeah, that's a bullwhip. Anyways, I got this back in 2020 at the 2020 LA Whip Convention. And these are very beefy whips. The handle is quite solid. It's firm. I have waxed this later on. They do not come waxed. They are unwaxed. The heel knot is very round. It is sturdy. It is tied on tightly. It has a Spanish ring knot for a transition knot. It has a stiff sort of area, which is kind of reminiscent of the Terry Jacka style whips. And the taper is a little fat, and then it gets thin quite quickly. It has quite a heavy sound to it for being a budget whip, and you will learn to crack this quite well. And I would suggest actually changing out the falls, because I give this one a paracord fall, but this one has used to have a shoestring for a fall, a very light nylon poly sort of cord, and it just made the whip way too light for the heaviness of the thong that it had. And it has a nice lightweight black nylon cracker. So another good budget-friendly whip. It hits a lot of great Western style aesthetics, and it's just another solid, fantastic bullwhip to have in a collection. So a 6-foot Western Stage Props nylon bullwhip, very versatile. The next whip we have is another economy bullwhip made by Sword Guy Builds. This time this is a 2020 model. This was the first whip that I actually had custom ordered for me. It is a nice dark brown color. It almost looks like leather in some shots if you look at it far away enough. And I actually really enjoy this one because it's the first of the economy bullwhips that Tori introduced. These are the earliest models. You can probably tell by the handle alone that it is much different. It has a very pineapple-y sort of knot instead of the round overlapping strands that looked more like the Indiana Jones knot. It has these smaller diamonds that have a much slimmer look and design to them, as well as the knot. And the transition area is a little bent. I've used this whip so many times. This has been my go-to whip for practicing for at least 4 years, and I have broken this thing in so well. It's very lightweight now. It used to have a little bit more weight, so I'd probably re-wax it later on if I want to put some extra power into it. And it's just got a very streamlined design. The wax makes it look sort of old and like it was on the set of a Western movie or TV show. I can definitely see this whip being used into maybe like a production like maybe Yellowstone or 1923 or something like that. It's just another simplistic design, still has the same two-tasseled hitch with a nice brown paracord fall. This is just an older model of the economy bullwhip, but still very effective. It cracks super readily, very fast, and it's just another great whip. So, economy bullwhip in brown, 7-footer by Sword Guy Builds. On to the next bullwhip, and what do you know? It's another 7-foot economy bullwhip made by Sword Guy Builds. You might notice I have a lot of these things. You might wonder, am I sponsored? No, I just really like these whips because I do not have a lot of money, and these whips fit my budget perfectly. And I just enjoy the work that Tori puts into all the whips that he does. He's just a great whip maker. Please go support him. Anyways, tangent over back to the whip. Has a short handle. This is basically the same as the purple whip that I talked about before. I'm just going to talk more about the colors this time. It's in a dark forest green with golden rod colors. This was meant to emulate a sunflower whip. This reminds me of Plants vs. Zombies, that iOS game from back in 2009. I'd imagine if Crazy Dave used a whip, he would probably use something that looked like this. It's just got beautiful colors. The overlapping herringbone chevrons contrast with each other and they complement each other, and the pattern is just so clean. These are still fairly new. I got this one and the purple one from my birthday, and I haven't used them so much, so I'm still breaking them in, but I can tell that these have more weight than the brown Eco Bullwhip that I talked about before. So anyways, another fantastic whip. There's not too much for me to say about it that I've already said before. Sword Guy Builds 7-foot sunflower economy bullwhip. The next whip is not a Sword Guy Builds whip, but it is still a great piece. This is a 7-foot 20-plat bullwhip made by whipmaker Brandon Link. I believe he is still on Facebook, so you can probably find him there. I got this when he had an Etsy shop back in, I think, 2022, and it was called BJ Whipco, and it's not on Etsy anymore. So we're going to take a closer look. The handle is actually a little longer than the whips that I have. It has a 9-inch handle instead of an 8-inch, and the colors are white with dark emerald green. And my older cousin actually told me that it reminded him of a Slytherin whip from Harry Potter. So I think I would see a Slytherin using one of these instead of a wand for a little interesting variety of Harry Potter fantasy weapons. I can imagine using a serpent swordia spell and summoning a snake through this, so that would be pretty sick. Anyways, the knot is quite cool. This one's quite unique because it actually has this silver concha with these flowers at the bottom, so it's got a nice little detail there. Has quite a round oval heel knot that is nice to hold. The handle actually feels quite heavy now that I'm holding it here. This has one of the heavier handles of my whips, and it has these nice sort of chevron herringbone patterns and the white contrasts and streams well with the rest of the green. This has lots of dirt and burn marks on it because I've used this a lot outside, and that's just how whips are. They get dirty. And this one actually has a nice silver ferrule. This doesn't affect the performance. It's just a nice little aesthetic piece that makes it look pretty. And we have another sort of very thin taper, and this actually cracks probably the smoothest out of most of the whips that I have. I can take this outside to crack it, and I can just put the littlest amount of effort, and this thing would just go whoop. It's just that smooth. And the high plat count really adds to the effect where we can see a lot of thin, tight braiding with this. So I'm very impressed with this. This is a great whip. Brandon Link makes excellent whips, and I can highly suggest this one. Moving on to the next whip, we are going back to the Sword Guy Builds Economy Bullwhips, and this time we have a very, very colorful 8-footer. This is a Wildflower themed 8-foot bullwhip, and it is definitely one of the flashiest whips in my collection. It has just so many bright colors. The design is so cool. This screams springtime, Easter eggs, flowers. It's just a very bright, cheerful whip. This is very flowy. It's got some good weight to it. When I crack it, it's very smooth. And I just love how flowy it is. It's got a nice, hefty sound. And just look at all the pink and the yellow and the green. This has just got such a cool, vivid color pattern. It's so striking. And I love it. When I was buying this, I wanted a nice sort of contrasty whip again. I wanted something bright and colorful, and this delivers. It's really, really cool. And I've used this. You can see a lot of the dirt on there, and it's just a joy to crack. Ooh, here's a pretty cool one. You might recognize this one from my most recent review. This is an 8-foot Castlevania style vampire killer bullwhip made by, well, Sword Guy Builds again. And it's awesome. This one has a lot of heft. I haven't used this one too much. I'm still breaking this one in especially, but the design and aesthetic of this is something to behold. I have not seen a lot of Castlevania replica Belmont bullwhips, and this one hits all the marks. The lattice work on the handle is so reminiscent of how the Belmont whips in the Netflix adaptation are. The gold knots accent the whip perfectly. They are a great callback to the brass collars and brass discs that the whip has. This is definitely a whip that looks like it can take a lot of abuse, and it looks like it can destroy some demons and vampires in a single crack. It's so cool. I love how the simple black design is just accented so well with that wide brown lattice work. And would you believe that Tori also makes a kangaroo hide version of this? This may be the nylon one, and it's epic, but he's also made a kangaroo hide version, and it's even cooler. This thing screams cosplay. This thing just embodies Castlevania and the Belmont clan. It's epic. It's loud. It's Castlevania. And of course, no whip collection would be complete without acknowledging the OG. The king, the adventurer himself, the man in the hat, Indiana Jones. This is the Temple of Doom replica. I've talked about this in quite a lot of detail in several videos on my channel. The Sword Guy Builds Economy Indy. This is a cosplay whip through and through. It embodies adventure. It embodies Indiana Jones. This one's quite a lightweight model. This one's an older model that I got back in, I think, 2023. I'm sorry that I'm blanking on all the years now. But it's not the years, it's the mileage, right? This whip has certainly seen a lot of mileage. This is my one indie cosplay whip. It's a great one. It flows great. It cracks really well. This has had a life of adventure before me. I got this from James Maxwell of Supersonic Studios on YouTube, and he has taken this on adventures as well. This is such a great whip. I love the dark brown. It just adds to the effect. It makes for a great regular indie whip. It's not too light tan like the Raiders whip or too dark like the Dial of Destiny whip. It's just right for any adventure. And it's Indiana Jones. Who doesn't love Indiana Jones? Well, if you stuck with me this far, congratulations, because we've made it to the final whip in the collection, at last. Last but not least is this 8-foot bullwhip in sort of a Indiana Jones Crystal Skull style, made by Eli Hooper of Hangtown Whips on Instagram. This is a cool whip. I bought this at the 2023 LA Whip Convention when I met Eli there. It's got quite a slow taper, which adds for a slower crack when it falls. It's got a nice sound to it. This is one of Eli's older whip models, and he's told me that he has improved the design a little bit from the review that I left him. I like the dark black knots and the short handle. Very reminiscent of the Crystal Skull whip, even though this isn't advertised as one. I use it as a Crystal Skull whip, and it's very, very cool. This will fit any adventure aesthetic. It can also fit a Western aesthetic. I like cracking this one, and it's pretty awesome. I don't know what else to say. Well, friends, I guess that's it. That's the entire Rusty Bullwhips whip collection so far. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed taking a look at my whips. I sure did. And thank you for watching. See you guys in the next video.